Good morning, guys. So what's been great about these videos is I've been really using body awareness to figure out what I'm going to talk about. So many mornings when I don't already have an idea, I just start thinking about different things I could talk about and just kind of going through my mind. And this morning I found many of them weren't super like clicking. I thought about I could talk about morning routines or I could talk about sleeping and I was just kind of going through these things and nothing was really interesting. And then I was trying to think of like, is there anything I want to share right now? And then this idea popped in my mind and instantly triggered that like nervous energy response. And so for me, what happens is I get kind of short of breath. My heart races. My the blood from my extremities moves into my core, so my hands and my feet get cold, and ultimately I feel cold. But at the same time, I'm just sweating on the inside because my core gets warm, but I feel cold. Super weird. And then I get kind of nervous, jittery, butterfly, and I'm like, yep, that's it. That's what I need to talk about because there's something here that I'm fearful about sharing, that I'm fearful about, I guess, talking about because like the judgment I'll feel, or in this case, it's a little bit of that judgment and it's a little bit of like pressing kind of hard into the woo side of things, and then yeah, I guess just I'm uncomfortable, I guess, sometimes sharing these things and going into that side, and that's entirely part of the reason of this video project is to continue to be uncomfortable and talk about these things because these are things I believe and I'm thinking and I'm processing and just doing life and having, yeah, I guess having these experiences and not doubting myself so much and not self-criticizing and self-judging and just being authentic with me, with my thoughts, my beliefs. Like, you don't have to believe them. You don't have to have the same ideas. You don't have to agree. And that's perfect. Like, that's awesome. And I'm not sharing this to convince anyone of anything. I'm just sharing this because it's my truth, right? I'm trying to be authentic. I want to live a life of openness and transparency. Not for everyone, but it's something I want and I've talked about. And so this is me doing that work on a meta fashion. Is like, this is the work I want to do because I want to get to a place where I'm just doing this and I'm more comfortable and I'm sharing. And yeah. So, what I want to talk about is both a concept that I actually believe in, and that's not the scary part. The scary part is my, I guess, personal relationship to it and about the specifics of it. So, I really believe, both through learning and reading about it and actively practicing it and having it happen in my life often, that we're not in control of what happens to us. Certainly not. And we need to relinquish that control. As soon as you come to that awareness, that's empowering. That most things are out of our control. And so we need to relinquish attachment and expectation to those things. Otherwise, those will cause suffering in amongst themselves. However, the thing we are always in control over is our response and the meaning we associate with the events that occur in our lives. So we might not be able to control anything that typically happens to us. I'll get back to that why, air quotes. But we have 100% control over our response, and B, the meaning we then associate with the event or the circumstance. Tony Robbins, again, top of mind. I'm reading his stuff, but I've been in his stuff for a long time and super powerful. He says something that, I firmly believe in, that life happens for us, not to us. And it's such an important mind shift because it allows you to see anything that's occurred in your life with gratitude, with blessing, even the hard shit. So, again, pushing a little bit, Tony Robbins also is really good about asking better questions. And this is one of his main ones, and one I practice lots and have known for years. The question is, what if the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the best thing? Right? So what if that thing in your life, in your memory, that thing that you believe was the worst, most tragic thing, and you've associated all of this meaning to it, what if that thing was actually the best thing that ever happened to you? And it's hard, and this is why I guess I'm uncomfortable talking about it, is it's not easy to even say it and to think it, and to hear, like, I can hear in my mind all of the responses from everyone, myself included. But again, and it's hard to explain, and I think this is why part of the uncomfortability is I'm not super great at explaining it or articulating it, but I'm gonna try and just share again my thoughts around it and then my experience. So again, if we're in full control over the meaning we associate with things, it means you and I have control over that. So we can take that situation and we can say it was terrible and it was the worst thing that ever happened to us. That might be true, but that's still you're doing that. It might be true, but you're doing that. What could also be true is looking at it as, what if it was the best thing that ever happened to me? Because that then also becomes true, because you've made it true. So it's super kind of heady, but it really comes down to when we take full responsibility for our responses and about the meaning we associate with things, it means that we also have to take responsibility for the meaning we attach to stuff and the stories we build, right? Again, these events we couldn't choose to happen to us, but you can let that event have disempowering lines, traumas that impact you for the rest of your life, or you can actually be intentional. Look at that experience. How did it change me for the better? What did I learn? How did I grow? How can I take this adversity, this wound, and actually make it a scar and a strength so that then I can move forward through adversity better? Because especially when we faced big things and we've overcome them, if we can take that then and leverage that, it means facing future adversity is easier, because it's look at what we've gone through, and we're still here. Like, if we can just give ourselves the grace, just the simple grace for whatever it is, that most traumatic event, you're still here. And that it's like on a very like grounding, like practical gratitude blessing level, like, you're still here. You're fine. You made it through. And now we can grow, we can heal, we can move forward, and then we can use that, and that can become this thing that caused so much pain and trauma has the potential to be a powerful asset to help you for the rest of your life. And so that's the kind of the heady concept. And so for me, in really practicing this, and again, it's both conceptual and spiritual and a little woo-woo, and again, that's probably why I feel strange in sharing. But I had decided I wanted to go traveling already. This was already something I was working towards. I just didn't know how it was going to happen, like most things. And a very specific avenue where I didn't know how I was going to make that happen is I had no financial means to even buy a plane ticket, let alone have money to go live somewhere else. Like, I posted a video a little while ago sharing that Sherry and I collectively have over $100,000 in debt. We don't have any savings, actually. So from a financial point, we're living paycheck to paycheck, kind of making it work. I just shut down my business not too long ago that at least had some cash flow. And after that, up until recently, I kind of wasn't making any income myself. By kind of wasn't, I mean I wasn't. Not to sugarcoat it, I wasn't making any income at all. And so that was part of the thing. I didn't actually know financially how I was going to make it happen. I just knew the why was greater than the how. I knew in some ways I needed, and again, that's when we talk about associating meaning, I'm associating that meaning. I needed to go. It's something I really wanted, and I associated a lot of meaning to going overseas to work and to kind of go down this new life path. And then Sherry and I ended up getting in a car accident where, fortunately, like, super grateful, like, we walked away pretty unscathed in relative speaking, like, rode off the vehicle. Both of us got some minor injuries, nothing major. I'm still rehabbing, so I'm spending quite a bit of time every week seeing a bunch of professionals. I'm functional, which is great, but as far as my baseline, I'm not really close. Like, I can't really go to the gym and exercise how I was, especially upper body stuff, because I kind of really hurt my the cartilage, I believe, the cartilage that connects my ribs to my sternum, both in the front and then in the back. And so I can't do a lot of weight bearing in my arms, push-ups, pull-ups, basically all the functional movement exercises I used to do are the things that are most aggravating. So I could do isolated movements, biceps, stuff like that, because those muscles are fine, but full body physical activity of even any kind of weight is still not good. So as much as I'm functional and living my life and not hampered that way, I still have a ways of recovery to do. So that was part of the accident. And so things that have come out of that. So again, when this accident happened, I've already had these ideas and was asking what I believe are more empowering questions, which is, instead of why me, why did this happen, blah, 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 and going down these negative spirals, I was already asking questions like, how is this the best thing for us? Or what can I learn from this that'll make me better? Both in practicality, so I've reflected a little bit on the incident itself in terms of what I would do next time I was in that situation. And not to dwell on it, I did as best as I could, which is great. I accepted that first. I did the best I could in that situation. But if I find myself in that situation again, I would like to learn from it. So I reflected on some things like, oh, I could have downshifted again. I could have downgeared again. That would have applied a little bit more engine brake because I was fishtailing. I was already out of control. That would have maybe slowed the vehicle down. Instead of being terrified about not going into the left lane and ultimately ending up in the right ditch, I know from experience with other people talking about focus, particularly in cars, exercises, accidents, that it's all about where you focus. And so I was focused on not going left, which is why I think ultimately I drifted right. And again, who knows, right? Again, there's only so much control when the vehicle's out of control. But if I find myself in that situation again, I'm really going to focus on going straight and really try to straighten out the vehicle, because at least there's a potential that I could right that out of control and then keep going and avoid that accident next time. So again, not dwelling on it, but just reflected to what I could learn. So the practical, but then also like the life, right? It was a bit of a, again, I don't want to go down in these down spirals, but it's good to reflect a little bit of like, this could have been tragic. This could have been much worse. Like, am I happy where I am in my life? Like, if I died, would I have felt fulfilled? And no. That's the answer. It's like, no, I wouldn't have. I there's so much I want to accomplish, and there's so many things I've let fear get in the way of doing, and there's so much I want to do still. And so looking at that and letting that be a bit of a vehicle for like moving forward. And so, like, even though it wasn't so devastating, that I think sometimes it forces those really big life changes, I definitely have noticed changes that are a little bit more subtle. Like, even making these videos, even purposely attacking these fears that I have, part of it is connected to that accident. Because it's like, I know there's so many times in my life where I let fear stop me from doing what I really wanted to do. And why? What am I afraid of? Judgment? Like that, in perspective, it just seems so silly. Like, I'm afraid of what other people think about me. Why? Why? And so, again, to connect all the pieces, it's like, this is why I'm doing this. And this is why, when I thought about this topic and it makes me fearful, it's like, that's exactly what I need to talk about today. Because for whatever reason, I'm holding on to something inside of me that's making me uncomfortable with this situation. And the way to not be uncomfortable is to share it and to talk about it and to process it and to get it out of me. And then it won't be weird. So, really looking at this accident of like, how is this the best thing that ever happened to this point? And I've done this with the other major areas of my life recently. The ending of the relationship and the heartbreak I went through, and then the ending of the business. Like how are all of these actually the best thing to happen to me? And they really are, because now they've led me to this place and where I am now and where I'm going. I'm amazingly happy with. I'm like so fucking happy. And I had to go through this shit, and it's not like I would have necessarily picked that shit. Like, I was super happy in the relationship and super happy to open my heart to love and experience, and I was enjoying that journey. So it's not like I would have necessarily chose to end it and go through heartbreak. So it's like, that was not in my control. But what was in my control is how I reacted to that situation, how I moved through it, and now the meaning I associate with that. And instead of just dwelling and feeling shitty and sorry for myself and hurt and whatever, I processed it. I got through it. I did a lot of work and I learned a lot of things about myself. And then ultimately I looked at it like, okay, now that this has happened, how is this helping me? And like I explained in the video about going to New Zealand, like, the fact that this relationship ended and that I shut down my business gave me the space to be open to new ideas and possibilities that have now led me on this new path of moving to New Zealand and going and pursuing DJing, which is what I wanted to do forever, at least 7 years. And so it's like, because of that, I get to have this now. So it's amazing. And again, it's actually just, everything is what we apply to it. Everything is the meaning we put onto it. You might think it's not, but it is. It really is. The instant we take full responsibility for everything that's in our control, so not everything out of our control, which is all of our life circumstances, but everything in our control, which is the meaning we associate and how we react to everything. The instant we take full responsibility for that, we realize everything is in our control. All the stories we tell, the meanings, our responses, our control. And so this has been really good for me, again, just sharing this and even uncovering a little bit of almost silliness as to why I feel nervous. But the other part I want to touch on, which is another part that makes me nervous, and so I don't want to skip over it, even though this video is getting long, is, and why I brought it up before, is the car accident itself specifically has given me the financial capital to then do the thing I want to do. So the fact that the vehicle got written off has given me the cash, and maybe I'm worried about the judgment of, because we're such in debt and I've made that clear and I'm not necessarily making the most financially responsible decision. Maybe it's that. Maybe that's part of the judgment of like, I might not be making the right decision financially, but I feel like I'm making the right decision for life and for me. So the accident, as much as I would have never chose to be in an accident, I wouldn't choose to go through that again. Even now, knowing everything I know, it's like the rehabbing sucks. Like, I don't want to, for probably another month and a half. Like, I don't necessarily want to do that. It's super not convenient. But again, I can't control the situation. I can only control how I respond and the meaning. And so I might as well look at the positive and the silver lining. And so, because the vehicle was written off and I got a check for its value, that money is going to be able to pay for my flights to go to New Zealand and have a little bit of money in the bank so that there's a bit of a cushion. Just generally, like, not only for me going to New Zealand, but for Sherry and I to have a bit of an emergency fund. Is like, we can have some money in the bank sitting there, and I know from previous times, like, I've never really been great about having an emergency fund or having money saved, but when I have, I notice my stress levels are much lower because there's a bit of a safety net, that there's some protection, that not everything is so on edge, and that one thing isn't going to tip the whole deck of cards down. And so, yeah, so it's incredible because I made the decision wanting to go to New Zealand, but from a financial standpoint, I had no idea how I was going to save up money for flights and save up money to have some living expenses. I figured I'd have to be in Creston a lot longer, make more money here, slowly save up, and then be able to go. But by getting this lump sum of money, it now allows me to go a lot sooner and have a lot more safety and comfort in that it's not such a risk, that it's like I'm not going to go broke there and then be scrambling because I'm in a new place and a new city and have less resources. And so, yeah, it's a little profound for me anyways, looking at the situation and really thinking about the fact that life is happening for me and not to me, and that as much as, again, I wouldn't have picked that choice, it's like, it just feels like there's a little bit of, so many things fell into place that are right, that, it encouraged, like, I'm a spiritual person. It encourages that faith in the universe, that, like, if we actually just trust, things often don't happen how we want it to happen, but things can happen for us. And then life isn't just this big chaotic mess, that it's actually that we're here for a reason and we're being guided, and we have support, again, at a very base level. Like, we're supported, and I'm not talking about any particular religion. I don't necessarily associate with any one. But I think there's a lot of common threads, and I think if we can overlook the differences and these labels and just get to a place of, like, there's more going on in this world than us being here, working a job and dealing with our family and raising kids. It's like, there's a much grander thing. And if we can tap into that, we're going to be a little bit happier. And if we can change our questions from why me and why did this happen to how is this the best thing for me, where's the silver lining, we're going to just be happier. So pure, like, let's remove the woo-woo and the spirituality and the faith and bring it to the core, and very practical, is me, you, everyone else is just going to live a happier day-to-day by implementing some of these basic strategies, some of these mental shifts from negative downward spirals to, again, like if you can't control the situation, you might as well try to find the best in it. Like you can't go back and change it. You have no control over that. So it's like, why don't we use our effort, our intention, our beautiful mind to find what's the good in this shit situation? Because at least that's going to help us today and tomorrow and the next day. And I will leave it at that because there's a lot in this video and it's probably the longest I've made so far. So if you've watched to the end, thank you so much. If you have any ideas or like want to engage with me on this topic, or like, I'd love for more conversation to happen around these videos. So either comment if you want it like public and have some thoughts, or send me a private message and we can talk whether you agree or disagree. I just like, the point of this is to share, and I don't want to be so stuck in my beliefs either. So I'd love to just hear what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have your own thoughts around this? I'm always looking to learn, so maybe you have something to teach me. I'm super open. So again, thank you so much, and I will talk with you guys tomorrow.